looks like starting off from Caleb's side with a Bridget, so we can't argue much with that.
Bridget, obviously that card that lets you search your deck for up to 3 basic non-EX Pokemon. Or if you got an EX Pokemon, you can only get 1. Most decks, obviously like this deck, they're going to be looking for 3 non-EX basics.
Yeah, they are. So unless sometimes you do end up in a situation where you just want to get a Mew EX, that's a tech we see quite often. If you get one of those, you can do that. But yeah, more often than not, it's really the deck that makes archetypes like this function so well, because you can just get multiple of your Pokemon that evolve up out, and then you can just evolve them all up and do your thing. You can do your trades and your Bloodthirsty Eyes and just set up your strategy from there.
All right, looks like Caleb got 2 Zoruas and a Rockruff. He attaches a fighting basic energy to the Rockruff and puts out a Parallel City.
Oh, it's a very, very strong start from him. And something, as someone, so if I were to play in this tournament instead of commentate, I would 100% be playing Zoroark Lycanroc. And when you're playing this deck, getting a Rockruff down with a fighting energy turn 1 is absolutely huge, because just by that being on there, it poses a massive, massive threat.
That's right. Lycanroc obviously has the GX attack, which does lots of damage, but also you can just go for it's a Claw Swipe.
Yeah, Claw Slash.
Slash.
Yeah,
Okay.
Either way, yeah. And Claw Slash just does 110 damage, but more often than not, that's enough. I mean, it KOs a Zoroark, for example. So, you know, it is still a very decent attack, although what's not decent is the start that Gabriel's had. He just attaches a double colorless, announces Psychic, and passes.
Mewtwo, it's great when you're running into a Pokemon that's weak to Psychic-type Pokemon, ones that take a lot of energy, like a fully powered-up Buzzwole. But unfortunately, in this situation, it's just a lone Rockruff, and Rockruff doesn't mind taking a Psychic when it has no energies attached.
No, indeed not. But gosh, what a really, really poor start from Gabriel. Meanwhile, from Caleb's side, he's got a Zoroark. He has a trade. There's a Lycanroc to boot. He can put that straight away if he wants to. He won't get much value out of it, obviously, because there's nothing to bring up onto the bench, but if he decides that maybe the best players just evolve that, attach double colors and Claw Slash, perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah. Caleb's probably looking at his opponent's field, and he's thinking to himself, I'm not going to play that end, so he goes ahead and discards it, looks like with an Ultra Ball, searching his deck. Looks like he's going to be getting a Lele to do a turn 1 Wonder Tag.
Yeah, and, well, no, it's not turn 1 anymore.
Turn 2.
Yeah, turn 2, yeah. But, no, absolutely, that's going to be very important for him, because, and this is something that really people need to keep in mind when playing, is that if you see your opponent have a terrible start like this, you really don't want to end them, because if you do, you're giving them a free pass. You're saying, you know, oh, well, you know, you didn't do anything, but I'm going to give you some more cards anyway. Maybe give you a chance to get back into the game.
And with that, absolutely uses the Wonder Tag with the Tapu Lele, gets a Professor Sycamore, and he goes ahead and evolves into Lycanroc GX on the bench, not using the ability because there's no bench Pokemon to bring up, and plays that Sycamore. Yeah,
he does. So drawing 7 cards off of that. Now, he would ideally like to find a way to retreat this Rockruff, but it doesn't look like he has. He has got another Zoroark, though, so maybe he can trade to find something. He doesn't.
Does not.
No. That's unfortunate, which means, because that now means that he essentially has to... It buys Gabriel another turn to find an out, essentially, because the problem that Caleb has is that Zoroark, it won't be able to knock out the Mewtwo one hit. Oh, but it doesn't matter, because Gabriel draws the Bridget.
That Bridget is huge. She had been sitting there with just the lone Mewtwo, now getting out the Bridget, so he can fill up his bench with 3 more basic Pokemon, or 1 EX. He does look like he plays a Mew EX. Not really too useful in this matchup, with Lycanroc not being weak to Psychic and Zoroark being resistant. So that looks like, yeah, he goes for 1 Wimpod and 2 Zoruas.
Yeah, so this is the 3rd Zoroark Golisopod we've seen on stream today so far. Kind of telling me that this is perhaps one of the Zoroark variants which people have opted to go for the most. And I mean, like we've discussed many a time today already, the really great consistency that, you know, alternating between the 2 efficient attacks gives you, as well as, you know, your type coverage, is the reason why a lot of players have opted to go for this variant, not least of which Tord Reklev, who we saw round 1.
And obviously that worked out very well for him. Looks like Gabriel just did a Psychic, just 20 more damage, slowly damaging that Rockruff. And we go back to Caleb. It looks like he
played a Guzma.
Played a Guzma, bringing up the Wimpod.
Yep, so he recognizes that the Wimpod is probably going to be the biggest threat to him. The Golisopod, of course, being grass type. First impression doing 120 actually will take a 1-hit knockout for weakness due to, you know, Lycanroc's grass weakness. So it's very important for him to deal with that straight away, which is exactly what he's done.
And using Riotous Beating does enough damage to knock out the Wimpod. Gabriel bringing back up Mewtwo.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really not great for him, because he's got the Zoroark out at least now, which helps, but Mewtwo is really not helpful for him this matchup in the slightest. Those psychic attackers aren't for this deck, and so starting with one which is hard enough to retreat as is, but then you can retreat with it, I guess, but it's really not great.
It's the only thing right now he has energy on. I wasn't sure if maybe he didn't think he would get into a double colorless energy, so went ahead and evolved both Zaruras to Zoroarks, plays a Tapu Lele to get an N. Interesting to see this.
Yeah, so maybe thinking cutting Caleb's hand size down to 5 is better than nothing, and maybe thinking there's stuff in his hand he'd rather not discard. So after this, he will still be able to get the full 6, given that he's not taken a prize yet, and he does find another Wimpod, so that's good for him. He wants to probably ideally bench that straight away, although he might end up feeling a little bit sad if Caleb finds another Guzma or perhaps even a second Lycanroc to evolve with the Rockruff and bring up that Wimpod.
All right, Gabriel using both trades here, discarding cards. Not really anything he's using this matchup. Looks like he's, like you said, he's probably trying to dig for more Wimpods. What's he got in his hand?
He's got a choice band. He's got a Mallow, which, from looking there, it seems like the Portuguese name for Mallow is Lulu.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very interesting there. Yeah, I always find it fascinating to see what the supporter names are in the sort of the different countries, because it's one thing where, like, because in some languages, Pokemon actually have different names. I believe it's French and one other is it German? Yeah.
Yes.
But even in languages where the Pokemon names are the same, the names of the actual trainers are always different, and I always find it fascinating to see.
Yeah, my favorite one is the German judge card. It's called Reiter.
Reiter. Oh, well, yeah, there you go.
All right, so looks like we're back on Caleb. He's going through his deck really quickly with those trades.
Yeah, he sure is. Finding himself another Zora and a Rockruff off of that. And he's got 2 puzzles of time in his hand as well, so he's I'm not sure there's anything worthwhile for him to retrieve in his discard pile right now, but the fact he has access to that is pretty good for him. And there he is, straight in with another Guzma.
Yeah, it looks like he's looking to take out one of those Zoroark GXs. He has the strong energy in his hand. He
does, so he will be able to do that dangerous Rogue GX, which will definitely be enough with the weakness to knock out the Zoroark and take 2 more prizes. And not only is that 2 prizes for Caleb, but that means that's now 1 less trade which Gabriel can do.
Absolutely. Gabriel being forced to bring back up his Mewtwo. Doesn't really have anything else with energy on the field, and Zoroark GX being weak to fighting does not really look like a good matchup against a Lycanroc GX with a strong energy, 1 energy away from just being able to use its attack.
Yeah, and there is that Lulu we mentioned earlier, the Mallow being played there for Gabriel, and looks like he's putting the double colorless to the bottom of his deck, and perhaps looking at Enhanced Hammer as well, just to get rid of either the bench double colorless or the strong energy on the active.
Enhanced Hammer might be a very good play here, but I mean, these are the players that are here. These are the players that are 4-0. I'm going to leave it up to their expertise to see what exactly they're going to do, but let's see what he does decide on.
It looks like he's deciding on Enhanced Hammer and Field Blower. So maybe thinking to himself, I want a bit more bench space to work with. This Zoroark can't really do as much if I don't have the bench space free to actually make Reiter's Beating do more damage. So with that, he'll be able to do the trade and then discarding the Mew, because as already mentioned, really not useful in this matchup. And now he will be able to use the Field Blower to discard the Parallel City, and now he's free to bench as many Pokemon as he wants again up until 5.
That's right. He's been holding on to a bunch of cards in his hand here. Benches the Wimpod. Looking at putting down a Zorua as well.
Yeah, does he have another Pokemon to bench after that, or will that have to be it? He has a Max Potion in his hand. I mean, all his Pokemon are completely peeled right now, so no need for that. And he has a Parallel City of his own.
Choosing to put it to the direction that makes Caleb discard down to 3 bench Pokemon, but that will also mean his Grass-type attackers will do 20 less damage.
Yes, they will. I mean, I was about to say it shouldn't be too relevant in terms of what it actually does to Lycanroc, at least, because of course the Lycanroc does have 200 HP, so even with the first impression reducing to 100, that still doubles weakness for a knockout, which is helpful at least.
Absolutely. All right, looks like we got a couple more trades over here. Caleb trying to look... What do you think he's trying to go for here?
It's really hard to say. I think a double colorless would be nice, because then he could just attach and Claw Slash, especially if he's able to find another Lycanroc, which he does have in his hand. So that would be good for him. He can then just bring up another Zoroark and KO that. But I don't believe I see a double colorless in his hand. If he has access to Acerola from his discard pile, then he'd play 2 puzzles at a time to get that back, and then pick up the Zoroark and get the double colorless that way. But or maybe he has a double colorless. No, he doesn't have one in his discard pile. It's unfortunate for him. So he doesn't have a double colorless or a he doesn't have a double colorless or what was it? Ace Roller in his discard pile. So that puzzle isn't an option. But instead, he just opts to Guzma, brings up the Wind Pod, and actually this is really clever because he can KO this now and take away that Golisopod threat again, and he goes back to an even number of prize cards.
Yeah, once he's down to 2 prize cards, knocking out 1 GX will win the game for him, so it's definitely a great idea here.
Yeah, it's about expending less effort to have to win later on by forcing to... Because if he didn't do this, then Gabriel could force Caleb to knock out a 2-prize Pokemon, even though he only has 1 prize left. So Caleb's trying to avoid that by saying, look, I'm just going to take a 1-prize knockout now, and then, yeah, I'll just take 1 more GX knockout to win.
Caleb playing the double puzzle time, getting 2 supporters back to his hand. It looked like a Guzma and a Sycamore. Looked like he may be setting up in case his opponent plays an N against him.
Yeah, I mean, it's always important to play out as many cards as you can within reason, whilst not expending resources needlessly, because then one of the important factors in most late games of Pokemon is the end reducing your hand size to a low number and then not being able to do much with it. Whereas if you're discarding the cards which won't be useful to you, then those ends will be a lot less effective on you, even if you're not drawing that many cards.
All right, so we see Gabriel here evolving active Zorua into Zoroark GX, attaching a Floatstone, also putting a Choice Band onto the Tapu Lele. Do you think maybe he's looking to attack with that?
Quite possibly. I mean, at this point, if he attaches the double colors to Tapu Lele, it will be doing 110 to the Zoroark, which, granted, won't be enough for a knockout, but it will soften it up so that you only need to do 30 more damage to knock it out. Now, one important thing to note about Tapu Lele GX is its Energy Drive attack does not factor in weakness or resistance. So even though normally it would do 20 less to Zoroark on the virtue of Zoroark Psychic Resistance and Tapu Lele being Psychic, Energy Drive actually ignores that.
That's right. Well, looks like a couple trades here. Gabriel is searching for that all-important card. And looks like he's just going to retreat and bring up the Mewtwo.
Yeah, and so with that, he's softening up the Zoroark a little bit more. He will be doing 60 to it, or 90, and then taking away the Psychic Resistance will be 70 total. So now, if Gabriel follows up with an Energy Drive, he could actually knock out the Zoroark, but whilst not bringing up his own Zoroark and falling victim to a Lycanroc.
All right, so we see Caleb here using that trade ability, trying to get into the cards he needs.
He didn't. Looks like he didn't find it though. He's got an Ultra Ball. He could maybe go for a Tapu Lele for a Guzma if he has enough left of both, and then you use the multi-switch in order to bring the double colorless onto the Lycanroc and Claw Slash for the win.
Oh.
Maybe it would be quite a play, but no, he just goes for Timer Ball. There's the heads, and another heads.
That does give him the ability to search for his evolution cards. So pulling out that Lycanroc GX and a Zoroark GX just because he's there.
Yeah. Wait, actually, I'm wondering, can he do the same play regardless? So he's got Lycanroc there. He can use Bloodthirst Eyes to bring something up. And then... Yeah, there's another trade. Oh, he's got double colors anyway.
He's got the double colorless.
Yeah. So there it is.
Plays Bloodthirsty Eyes.
Yep. And so he brings up Zoroark and Claw Slashes it for a knockout. And so with that, Caleb will take game 1.
They're just double-checking the math there. But yeah, it definitely does look like that's exactly what happens. Caleb taking the first game here, using that Lycanroc GX to knock out those fighting weak Zoroark GXs. Gabriel started out a little rough there. Looks like he had to try to combat most of his way with that Mewtwo with a double colorless energy.
Yeah, I think sort of very early points in that series, it was, or in that game rather, it was never really looking favourable for Gabriel. Considering his start turn 1 was attached double colourless pass to the Mewtwo, it's probably not going to pan out well for you in the end, because that gave Caleb a free turn to set up more of his bench Pokemon and pick stuff up later on with Bloodthirsty Eyes, and it also makes more turns to attach energies to Rockruffs as well. Like, one of the weaknesses of the Zoroark Lycanroc deck is that your energy attachments aren't that fast. Like, unlike Zoroark Golisopod, where every single thing you attach will give you an attacker going, Lycanroc needs 2 energy attachments to be able to do anything, and so there's one turn where your opponent can just Guzma the Rockruff, for example, bring it up and KO it, and then you're left stuck.
Yeah, and Gabriel just attacking with Psychic. He probably attacked with Psychic about 4 times, did probably like less than 100 damage. I mean, it just didn't work out very well for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, no. So with any luck from his side, he will be able to get a slightly better start this time, and maybe be able to put up a better threat to.
And it looks like we
board.
do. Much better choice. Okay, looking at Caleb's prizes, lots of supporters there.
Yeah, lots of supporters actually. That could be awkward for him. He'll be very happy to see the Mew prize. He really was not that fussed about that. Mallow in the prizes is a little bit unfortunate, but other than that, it's not the end of the world, I guess.
Correct. Looks like he plays a nice, healthy Tapu Lele account as well. So having one of those prized isn't going to cause any issues.
No, indeed it won't. So Gabriel will be going first, and it looks like he... Oh dear. He benches the Zora, plays a single puzzle at a time. That's generally a bad sign. Oh no. And he passes.
Passes without playing a supporter. Hopefully, putting those 3 cards back on top of the deck in any order that he chooses, was able to put something there more useful. Rather than have to wait 1 or 2 turns, maybe he'll just get it next turn.
Yeah, meanwhile from Caleb's side, not the best of starts either, but still better at least than Gabriel's start. He does have a fighting energy which you can attach to the Tapu Lele, so that will be able to now retreat into something else, and then going for a Cynthia.
That's right, Cynthia. It's a great supporter. Came out in the past set. Shuffle your hand into your deck, and then you just draw 6 cards. Very consistent draw without giving the ability for your opponent to draw cards as well.
Yeah, so it's a very, very cool supporter. Just a consistent shuffle draw. I mean, sometimes you really just don't want to give your opponent a new hand, like with N, for example, but you equally don't want to discard things with Sycamore. So Cynthia is a really great compromise supporter for exactly those sorts of situations. Now, we saw Caleb end his turn by doing his own single puzzle at a time. And now from Gabriel's side, actually he has a double colors and a Zoroark, so maybe that puzzle was better than we thought it was. The rearrangement working out well for him.
Yeah, it's possible that he was just holding onto the hand, recognized he had the Zoroark GX and the double colorless, didn't want to give away exactly what he had, but at the same time, wanted to make his opponent think that he didn't have that great a hand.
Yeah, and then not only that, but Gabriel actually had the N ready as well. So, and actually, something that's important to note, Caleb did not bench a single Zoroark during his last turn.
That's true. We just have a Rockruff down there on the bench. Rockruff's still very important, but the way these Zoroark GX decks work, you want to get down those Zoruas as fast as possible so you can start trading.
Yeah, exactly. And the trade is what makes the partner Pokemon for Zoroark so strong in the first place. So if you don't have access to draw those multitudes of cards, then you're potentially going to really struggle. And meanwhile, Gabriel's getting himself set up really nicely here.
That's right. Benching a Wimpod and benching another Zorua. This will set him up next turn that he can look into evolving either one or both of those Pokemon and starting to really deal some major damage.
Yeah, and so now there goes a Choice Band onto the active Zoroark, and this Zoroark will be doing 110 damage of Reiter's beating onto the Tapu Lele GX. And now it's back on Caleb. He does have another supporter to play, so he's not high and dry, but he's definitely on the back foot.
Yes, placing that Float Stone right there. Looks like he's trying to play some cards, minimizing the amount of cards he's going to draw later. Choice Band, always a good thing to have onto a Rockruff as well, but looks like he just wanted to play those cards so that way he wouldn't draw into more tools, more likely to draw the energies and Pokemon he needs.
Yeah, exactly. So he really, really wants to find Zoras off of this especially. He just needs to find things to evolve with, set up, and look, looks like Caleb almost made a mistake there, but he was able to spot it in time, so...
Yeah, and that's one thing I really like with professional players. When they draw face down like Caleb did, it alleviated any chance that he would see that card, because it would become a gameplay error major if he saw the card that was drawn. But since it was face down, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, no, so just a quick almost a metaphorical hand slap from the judges saying, be careful about that. But other than that, yeah, absolutely fine. Now, Caleb goes for a one tag here. He has already, of course, played a supporter this turn, so this is more a preemptive sort of thing. And it'll be interesting to see what he actually goes for. He's got a Zora and a Rockruff in hand, so that's pretty cool for him, actually. Although the one problem we might run into is that with Zora there, that kind of leaves him vulnerable to it being Guzman up and KO'd, and then at that point he's left without access to anything again. Right.
The danger of playing Tapu Lele too early is that supporter's just going to go into your hand. Your opponent knows it's there, so they can play an N of their own to try to make it go away. But the same token, it looks like he didn't want to not have a Pokemon to attack with this turn, so putting a double colorless onto a Tapu Lele GX, the one he just benched, and attacking with it.
Yeah, and equally he didn't want to attack with the Tapu Lele that was already damaged as well, because then it would just get knocked out in return, and then at that point Caleb could really be put onto the back foot. So now Gabriel is going to take his turn, and he plays... I didn't quite see what that was.
That was a Bridget, but it looks like he used trade.
Okay, so now there goes the Zoroark onto the Zora there, and then another trade from that, discarding another Bridget. So real ideal targets, drawing 2 double colorless energy. And he's got stuff to work with. He's got a second Wind Pod, which he's going to put down. That's really good for him. It means that Caleb can't do that same disruptive thing he did last game of just carrying the Wind Pods before they became a bigger threat. And he's got a Grass Energy too, but opting to attach double colors to the bench Zoroark.
It's possible maybe that Gabriel doesn't have access to a Golisopod GX at this time.
Well, I mean, he definitely doesn't in his hand, but maybe he'll find one off this end.
I think he's probably going for the safe play. He realizes he has the energy right now. He might not have energy after he plays the end. So let's go ahead and attach this energy while we have it to another viable attacker, and we will see where we go after that.
Yeah, and maybe he just committed to the idea that he won't be attacking with Golisopod this turn anyway, so it doesn't make sense to attach the grass on the small chance of finding one, because he doesn't gain any benefit hugely from attacking with the Golisopod anyway. So now he's going to be retreating that Zoroark because it's a little bit softened up, so probably best to attack with something fresh. And so up comes the other Zoroark, and then that will just be a Reiter's Beating for 100 damage.
And another nice part about that is the after retreating, this Zoroark does not have a tool attached to it, so it does have the option of putting a Floatstone on it later if he wants to try to retreat it.
Yeah, he sure does. And so now, yeah, there's Reiter's Beating, so it will be 100. Back to Caleb's turn now, and I mean, we can already see which side of the field looks better compared to the other between these two. I mean, Caleb's got some stuff going for him right now, but I think 2 Wind Pods and 2 Zoroarks and a Tapu Koko beats 2 Rockruffs, a Zorro, and 2 damaged Tapu Leles.
Absolutely. If Caleb tries to evolve into a Lycanroc GX to knock out the Zoroark, he's going to need some help. It doesn't look like he plays max elixirs in his list.
Well, I mean, the Zoroark, Lycanroc lists don't really have room for them, so unfortunately, so this is what... We was go back to what we were saying earlier about how the Zoroark Lycanroc deck is really one of the slowest attaching viable decks right now, because not all of the attacks are single energy attachment power-ups, like both of the Lycanroc's ones, and equally you don't have energy acceleration, so yeah, it can be quite tricky to get yourself going if you have a slow start.
Absolutely. Looking at the list, we see double colorless energies, we see strong energies. There would not be room for a max elixir anyways, because those basic energies only playing 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine if you miss enough of sort of 9 basic energy, imagine how often you'd miss with 2.
All right, so looks like we got a couple options here. Debating where he wants to put the energy, as he has not attached his turn. So he could attach the strong energy if he chose to.
Yeah, maybe might be going for, was it tackle? Just do 62 to Zoroark, perhaps?
That would get some damage on the board. However, easily Zoroark GX could turn around, attack with his own Reiter's Beating, and knock out the Rockruff. So probably more than likely not what's going to happen.
Yeah, I would imagine so as well. So now we did see that the Mallow was played there, and then Caleb ended up doing the trade, so he would have found exactly what he needed there, and he does find a parallel city to try and limit Gabriel's bench options a little bit more, and it's like Gabriel has a decision on what to discard here. Opts to just discard Tapu Koko, deciding probably not going to be that useful overall in this matchup.
Yeah, Tapu Koko, great in certain matchups. This one with all these fighting type attackers, with the ability of Acerola to pick up Pokemon that are damaged, not necessarily the best matchup for Tapu Koko.
No, and it looks like Caleb... Oh, of course, he has the multi-switch in his hand.
Multi-switch!
Completely forgot about that, of course. So, yeah, with that, of course, you can move any energy from one of your bench Pokemon to your active, be it special or basic. And so with that, the Lycanroc can do the Dangerous Road GX attack and knock out the Zoroark.
And that's exactly what happened. All of a sudden, Gabriel's down to just 1 Zoroark GX, 2 Wind Pods with no energies attached to them. Suddenly, the board shifts. Absolutely.
That's an incredibly impressive turn from Caleb there. So, yeah, now what does Gabriel do? Because he hasn't got any Golisopods out, and all his energy is gone. So I can say, that's because he's using the Enhanced Hammer, right? Because, yeah, wow, that's an incredible turnaround.
So now we're back on Gabriel's turn. Looks like he played a Tapu Lele. He's using Wonder Tag, looking for a Sporter, opting for the N. How many cards? Caleb has a couple cards in his hand, but it's not gigantic.
No, it's not, but equally, N will draw Gabriel a decent amount as well, so may as well be the supporter of choice for him. He really he only needs 2 cards here. He needs a Float Stone plus a Grass Energy just so he can retreat into the Galisopod and do First Impression to knock out the Lycanroc. That's his turn.
Now we do see a Galisopod on the bench, evolving from the Wimpod. Now he's going to be drawing his 6 cards off at the end, while Caleb only draws 4.
Yeah, and he hasn't hit either. Oh, no, sorry. He has hit the Grass Energy, but he hasn't got a way to retreat. So there goes one trade. He needs to see a Float Stone off of this, and he doesn't. Oh, dear.
Yeah, still going to attach the energy to the Galisopod. Might as well get that ready to go. Plays the Enhanced Hammer to remove the Strong Energy. It's a great move.
Yeah, so that's still a pretty decent turn for him. It forces Caleb to have to find a double colorless rather than just another basic or Strong Energy to be able to power up the Claw Slash. But he gets the double colorless energy straight away. And I believe, does he have a Lycanroc in his hand ready to go as well?
It's hard to say right now, but he does have...
There's a Zoroark. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if he finds Lycanroc, you can just, evolve Bloodthirsty Eyes, the Zoroark, and Claw Slash for a knockout, and it should be really, really strong. Although, at which point, Caleb has to be careful because Gabriel could just respond with the Galisopod, although he would need to find a way to bring something else active first and then retreat it. So, maybe? Who knows?
All right, so we see the trade here. Drawing a couple more cards. Probably looking for, well... He already has the double colorless.
I mean, he has the Ultra Ball now, so he could go for this play if he decides to.
What will he do? He's making decisions here.
He's
Looks
going
like
Guzma. Oh, actually, okay, he's deciding that actually the Galisopod is the biggest threat right now. He actually would rather just deal with that. So, going to be benching another Zora and just doing Reiter's beating for 120, just dealing with this Galisopod before it can really put hurts on Caleb's Lycanroc.
Yeah, Zoroark GX, really a metagame changer. Once that card came out, does 20 damage for each Pokemon in play, so able to do lots of significant damage to that Galisopod.
Yeah, and of course, unlike the Lycanroc, not weak to the Galisopod, so
Right.
a lot less scared of being hit back. And not only that, but for Galisopod to hit back at the Zoroark for any significant amount of damage, Gabriel needs to find a way to retreat and bring it back up anyway. So by using the Guzma to bring it up and hit it, now the first impression becomes a lot less threatening because Gabriel has to find a lot more resources to make doing that attack worthwhile.
Absolutely limits Gabriel's options. He is able to get out another Galisopod GX onto the bench, but now he still has to find a way to retreat the active and attach another grass in the same turn.
Yeah, he does. He does have a Cynthia, though, so if anything's going to help him do it, it's this. And it's a similar situation to last turn. He needs a Grass Energy plus a Float Stone. He needs to find the exact same 2 cards. Watch him hit just the Float Stone, not the Grass. Oh, no, there's the Grass in hand.
He has the grass.
Does he hit the Float Stone? No, I didn't see it. He does have a double colorless, though, so perhaps the best play here is to just attach the active and do crossing cuts. It won't be a one-hit knockout, but he can attach the Choice Band and leave the... It would leave the Zoroark on 30 left, and then it would protect the Galisopod because he then, of course, the Crossing Cut GX forces you to switch to a bench Pokemon, so then he could switch to something else which he doesn't mind being hit as much. Or perhaps just going for an Arm Press, no?
Yeah, he's reaching for that GX token, flipping it over, indicating that he is using his Crossing Cut GX attack, switching it to the bench, and doing a whopping 150 damage.
Not bad at all, so... Now again, we're back at Caleb's side. This is going to be the turn where he really wants to find the Lycanroc so that he can bring up the Galisopod on the bench and just KO it once and for all. There is another Zoroark found it in trade. It gets used to discarding the Mew. The Ultra Ball is in Caleb's hand, so he does have guaranteed access to the Lycanroc already. Whether there's certain things in his hand which he doesn't want to discard right now is another matter, but... given that the Gliscod is the biggest threat on the board, I'd imagine he'd just want to deal with it, and yeah, it looks like that's what he's going for.
Yeah, Caleb has 3 Pokemon on the field that are heavily damaged, so realistically, Gabriel doesn't need to do a whole lot of damage to those Pokemon, but he would have to have them in the active position to do it, and it looks like he is going to go on the offense here.
Yeah, and we also do see a Professor Kukui drawing 2 cards, and then we see the Lycanroc using Bloodthirsty Eyes to bring up... Yeah, actually going for the Zoroark instead. Interesting. Maybe, again, just thinking he wants to cut off Gabriel's draw options, and actually he's completely content with just dealing with the Gliscod next turn instead. Actually, again, given that the first impression won't be doing more damage, that's probably why he did that.
Yes, first impression doing not as much damage because he has to promote it between turns, which means it is not during your turn that the Pokemon's retreating and brought to the active position.
Yeah, exactly. It's some slight difference in wording, but it means that first impression will only be doing 30 right now, and Gabriel needs to find... Well, that works.
Using Ace Roll to return it back to the hand, all the damage coming right off. And hey, look, there's a Golisopod GX brought up to the active position during his turn.
Yeah, and so now that Golisopod will be able to do first impression and pick up Gabriel's first 2 prizes of this game, actually, knocking out that Zoroark.
So taking 2 more prizes. Like I mentioned, there are 2 Pokemon on the bench that are heavily damaged. If Gabriel's able to find his way to those while still protecting his own Pokemon, looks like he might have a chance at this still, but Caleb is only 2 prizes away from winning this game.
Yeah, and he really needs to make sure that he's able to find those 2 prizes as quickly as possible. There it goes. His one trade he still has access to, discarding a Bridget, and looks like he drew into a Zora and a Timer Ball. So, it'll be interesting to see if he ups to play that now, maybe just seeing what evolutions he even still has access left to. There it is. So the Timer Ball, of course, flip 2 coins, and then for each head, get to search your deck for an evolution Pokemon. That's 1 Tails. And...
That's off camera, those heads.
Okay, so you can get 1 out, and yeah, it will be, of course, going for that Zoroark.
Now, he doesn't have any Zoruas in play, so he would have to bench a Zorua this turn.
Yeah, he does have one in his hand, so I don't think it's not... He does have access to one, at least if that's the route he wants to take. But maybe he's thinking something else might be better. There goes Acerola.
Acerola, returning the Tapu Lele to his hand, does 2 things there. Removes all that damage from the Pokemon, so now there's only 1 heavily damaged Pokemon out there. And also gives him the ability to use the Tapu Lele later in the game, if he so chooses.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really sort of a double-faceted advantage to playing the Acerola on the Tapu Lele right there. And... Well, I guess the problem still is Caleb doesn't have access to an energy which will enable him to attack this turn. He's got a strong energy which he can either put on the Lycanroc with no energy or the one with 1 energy already on it, but neither of those really helps him too much in terms of what he wants to achieve this turn. He does opt to go for the one with energy already on it though, and I'm assuming he'll just announce pass after that.
Hoping that his Lycanroc GX is safe on the bench for 1 turn. It really depends what Gabriel is able to draw on this turn.
I mean, once again, we've said it so many times already, he just really needs to see a Float Stone of some sort because, I mean, he wants to see Guzma as well, but if he has Float Stone, then you can Guzma into something and then retreat back in with the Golisopod and do first impression. Instead, he has got double Colorless, which he can attach to the active Golisopod, so again, now Armor Press is once again an option.
Armor Press, of course, doing 100 damage, but it has that extra added benefit of providing armor.
Yes, it does. It makes all your opponent's attacks during the next turn do 20 less, which doesn't seem like much, but oftentimes actually ends up making the difference between hitting a knockout and not, so it can be really, really crucial.
Yeah, Golisopod having 210 damage, or hit points, of course. It does look like he does that, doing 100 damage to that Zoroark GX, letting it be halfway to being knocked out.
Yep, so Armor Press is in effect, so now this Caleb's going to have an even harder time KOing this Golisopod. Looks like he's going to have to go for a Tapu Lele Wonder Tag. Of course, this was the Tapu Lele he picked up just earlier with the Acerola, and he's now using it to grab a Cynthia and see what he really has left.
Looks like he was looking a little frantically at his prizes, hoping there was another Guzma, perhaps, or another card that he could use. Going for the Cynthia. Not many cards left in his hand.
No.
Deck.
So, and there goes a trade, discarding a Mewtwo. There goes the second Zoroark, so you can now trade again. What's he discard this time? Maybe thinking about the Field Blower. Yep, discards the Field Blower for the second trade. Ooh, and now he has 2 puzzles at a time, and an Enhanced Hammer as well!
Oh. All right, the double puzzle, obviously very effective. When you play 2 puzzles at a time at the same time, they allow you to search your discard pile for any 2 cards you would like and put them into your hand. A lot of players using this to get back special energies, Guzmas, or any other resources that are very hard to come by.
Yeah, this is super, super strong from Caleb. If he plays this turn right, this could be the turn they really use it to seal this game once and for all. So, yeah, there goes the 2 puzzles at a time. Now, he's opting for Acerola off one of them. I think that makes a lot of sense. He wants to, pick up pick up his damaged Zoroark and make sure that it doesn't get KO'd. But once again, it's his second choice that will be really interesting. What does he go for here that will help him the most to be able to seal this game? Maybe the Guzma, maybe even... Oh, he's going for another puzzle at a time.
That's right. Earlier in the game, he just played that single puzzle. Wasn't looking in such a good shape. Went ahead and played it just to make sure he knew it was on top of his deck. Being able to pull back that puzzle time gives him the opportunity later to use another double puzzle time.
Yeah, this is something else that we see top players who play decks with puzzle time in do. So, if you already discarded one puzzle, like you said earlier, then it means that, in theory, you only have access to one double puzzle for over the course of the rest of the game because you have 3 left total. But, of course, if you use your first double puzzle to get back the one you discarded earlier, then you have your fourth one that you can use with the one you got back to actually have another double puzzle later on. So you can actually get back 3 cards instead of 2. And that's exactly what Caleb's done here. An amazing play.
After doing that, he picked up that damaged Zoroark GX with the Acerola, and then evolved the other Zorua, bring it up, attaching the double colorless, and doing a Riotous Beating.
Yep, which will put 100 damage worth of points worth of damage, as I got it the wrong way around, onto the Golisopod. Of course, it would be 120, but the armor press reduced it. Now all Caleb really needs is a choice. Assuming another arm press happens, he just needs a choice band plus a Guzma. Again, assuming that this Golisopod deactive retreats.
He attached the Grass Energy this turn to the bench Golisopod GX, so it doesn't look like he'll be doing an armor press this turn.
But Acerola will do the trick as well.
Acerola removing that damage, brought that Golisopod GX to the active positioning, allowing him to use that first impression attack.
Yeah, so this is really why Acerola is super, super strong with Golisopod, because it's like not only do you heal one Golisopod, but then it triggers the other one to be able to do the extra damage as well. It's an incredibly strong supporter, and it's going to be a Riotous Beating for a first impression for 120.
All right, so of course that is what he does. Caleb, not many cards left in his deck, so let's see if he's able to find anything to draw into he needs.
Yeah,
using trade, discarding that Cynthia.
And then evolving the other Zoroark, and looks like going for... He's got to be careful about how much he trades here, because that deck is looking pretty thin. He wants to have access to as much as possible. He doesn't want to draw so much he actually ends up running out of cards before he can take his last few prizes. So there goes another trade.
Ooh. And just a reminder, Pokemon players, when you can't draw a card at the beginning of your turn, he has double puzzle time, gets the Guzma. Does he have...
So he's got the choice band in hand. So yeah, he can attach it. Oh, he doesn't even need it. Of course, Claw Slash. Oh no, he did need it. But yeah, there you go. Attaching a strong energy and the choice band with the Guzma onto the Tapu Lele. Claw Slash knocks it out, and Caleb wins game 2 and the match.
Wow. Using those trade abilities on that Zoroark GX, getting that other puzzle time, able to pull it back after pulling back the single one earlier. That's some high-level thinking there. He had to think of several turns ahead to think, all right, I can't do it this turn, but what can I do this turn to set up a future win? And of course, that is exactly what happened. Yeah,
and really showing the strength of strong energy, just being able to build up to that point where you're able to do enough with Claw Slash to just knock out not even something that's weak to fighting, but able to knock out the Tapu Lele and take the last 2 prizes that way. Super, super strong play from Caleb. It's really great to see such next level thinking going on, where you're thinking that